Fall is in the air, the days are getting shorter, the temperatures are getting lower, and the pressure is on for me to provide suitable housing for this gentle creature. We wouldn't want the precious little pooch to be outside when the blustery, cool weather hits later on this season. This isn't something that I've been looking forward to. I can hardly put together the concentration to do improvements to my own house, so you can imagine how motivated I am to build a house for the dog. But in the interest of canine comfort, and because I am a sympathetic and caring person, I'm going to grit my teeth and build the quickest, cheapest doghouse that I can. And my plan is to build a doghouse out of just a single piece of 4-foot by 8-foot plywood, and that's kind of the hook to this video, doghouse out of one sheet of plywood. I've done some calculations here to try to figure out how to maximize dog living space using only a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and I'm not very good at math. I'd rather just start cutting and nailing and see what happens. But the best thing I can figure out is cutting the piece of plywood into 4 quarters this way. So we have 4 pieces of plywood that are 2 feet by 4 feet long. And the next thing I'm going to do is trim down 3 of these pieces. I'm going to cut this one 36 inches long, and these two 32 inches long. This is going to be kind of an A-frame house for Doggy Dearest. And after I've made those marks, I'll make a line with my straight edge here and make the cuts. Disclaimer: this doghouse is not sufficient shelter for a large dog. My dog weighs about 10 pounds. So I have my lines scribed here on the boards. I'll take them out to the cutting area now and make the cuts. Did you see that? That's a car tire in 2 plastic bags. If that intrigues you, check out this link right here. I finished making the cuts. What started out as a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood is now a 36 by 24 inch piece of plywood, 2 32 by 24 inch pieces of plywood, and a 2-foot by 4-foot piece of plywood. The thickness of this plywood is 19/32, colloquially known as 5/8 inch, and I will recommend that you get at least that thickness of plywood or thicker, just so we can nail into it easier. So now that these cuts are made, I think we can dive in with both feet and start assembly. I've never built a doghouse before, so we'll see how it goes. To assemble these pieces, I'm going to use these 6-penny nails. Funny, my dog's name is Penny. And the reason I chose 6-penny nails is not because of any engineering specification or anything like that. It's because I found these. This is almost half full of nails, and I found them on a job I was working on. So this 36 by 24 inch piece is what I envision to be the doggy floor. And these 2 pieces, the 32 by 24, are going to be the roof of the house. So I'll set it up now and see if we can nail it together. So in my mind's eye, I envision something like this. We've got the floor here, and these two pieces form a triangle. Like something like this. And hopefully I can nail it all together. And the reason I mentioned that at least 5/8 inch plywood would be recommended for this is because I'm not going to use any reinforcing sticks in these corners. I'm just going to go ahead and put nails right through here into the plywood. I don't know if that is conforming to doggy building codes, but I didn't get a Poochie permit for this, so it's all right. So I've got my triangle set up. I think I want to place this piece kind of on top of the floor here and nail up from the floor into the roof. So we'll get that set up. And the reason I have this other piece over here is just so I'll have kind of the correct angle for this piece. I don't want to nail it out here somewhere and then find out that I need to move it or something once it's already nailed. So let's start this. Oh, look at this. I'm in the doghouse. Haha. That. And I lost my reference piece over there. Oh well. I think I'll turn it over to put the other nail in. You have to be careful to eyeball these nails just right so they go into the piece of plywood here. This is a mistake right here for those of you with eagle eyes. Okay, so there's one side nailed on. You can see my little mistakes here. It's tough to get it lined up just right when nailing because this is what we see. We have to get a nail just right straight into there. So this side's done, and I'll just attach this other side in the same manner. Okay, that side is done. Now we'll just have a peek at the peak here. Nail this together. You might get some of these little points peeking through if your aim is like mine, which is not the greatest. See that? But it's going to be covered up with some really revolutionary roofing material anyway, and you won't be able to see that. Okay, the roof framing of our house is complete. Next we need to attach the sides. One side is just going to be this guy right here. And what I'll do is, I changed my mind. I will put this one right here so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take my pencil. I don't see it. Somebody else is taking my pencil. Oh, here it is. It was just me. Stay there. So we'll mark. Cut that out with the saw. I've got my wall here cut out, and you guessed it, I'm just going to go ahead and nail it on. Perfect. Now that this main wall is attached, I need to think about whether I'm going to put a little piece there or not. I probably will, but not right now. Nailing this on really gives it a lot of strength too. It's a strong house. Next, we'll work on this side. This is where the doggy door will be. I'm going to use the larger of the two cut-off pieces that were remaining from this wall over here. It looks something like this. And I'm going to attach it in this manner. So we'll place it like this, and I'll use my pencil to mark the other side. I know this isn't the most elegant thing that's ever been built, but this isn't about being a masterpiece of carpentry, so don't bark at me about that. So now I'll go cut this line and attach the piece to this side of the house. And we'll just put this right here and nail it in place. I now have this portion of the wall attached. After working with this material and this project for a little while now, I have to say I definitely recommend for the viewers that you use at least 3/4 inch plywood. It's too tough to try to nail into the end of this plywood without it splitting. I think this doghouse will definitely be serviceable, but you'd probably start to howl if you had to work with this thin plywood on your own job. And to finish up the framing portion of the house, I'll just attach this piece right here. The frame is now pretty much complete. I did realize an error in my engineering when I was installing this last piece here. Because this doesn't span all the way over here, it's a little bit weak right here. So I might put a little piece of plywood underneath here and screw it from this side. That way it secures this piece to this piece. But then again, I may not, because it's not like that's a real structural area. The next thing I'm going to do is work on a proper roof for my pooch. I've tossed around a few ideas in my head with regard to how I should seal this up from the elements, and my decision is to use some of these Coke cans that I have strewn about the garage. What I've done is I've used some tin snips like this, and I've cut out the flat portion of a few Coke cans, and these are going to be the shingles for my doghouse. So I've made up about 4 or 5 of them so far, and I need to make a lot more. But I think it'll be kind of a neat addition to the backyard, and maybe even a canine conversation piece. To cut the cans up, I basically just cut off the top and the bottom. Just very carefully cut along this line where the can starts to taper up toward the spout end. And then cut right down here and cut around the bottom. Be careful because this aluminum is sharp. To attach the shingles, I'm going to use some small nails that I've had laying around the shop for a long time. And I'll start at the bottom. And just nail them on. And I'm thinking 3 nails per should do it. And then the next shingle, I'll just slightly overlap and repeat. I'm attaching these on the top edge. That way, when I get ready to install the second row, I can overlap the nail. I just got stabbed by a shard of aluminum here on the thumb, and it made me reassess my shingles. I think to eliminate any sharp edges, I'm going to fold in the edges like this and then attach the shingles. This will take a lot of extra time, however, it will be much safer. So now I'm going to attach some of my new and improved, better tasting shingles. This house is going to be for you. Rough. Oh, how I wanted a place for my very own. And to finish up this row, I think I will fold this one a little bit. That. On the second row, I'll just start with a full shingle like this, and now this shingle will overlap this seam right here. And I'll make sure that the bottom edge of this shingle is lower than the nails. Good doggy. It's funny how life twists and turns. I never imagined that I would be using these little nails to attach soda can shingles to a doghouse. So I'll just carry on, continue in this fashion, and make my way up to the top. As you can see, I'm making my way up the mountain here, and Coke is getting less and less appetizing. Yuck. I've made it up the side of the doghouse about 3/4 of the way, and I've cut out this little piece of plywood to go right here. So I'll nail that on and then continue the rest of the way up with my soda can shingles. I'm making some respectable progress on my doghouse. I've finished this side with the exception of the peak and the edges, and I've started on this other side. As is the case with most projects, I've made a few tweaks and a few improvements since I've started. I noticed that as I was bending these shingles into shape, I really started to cut my thumb and my fingers from the sharp aluminum. So I've made a slight improvement to the way that I fabricate these shingles. What I've been doing is, after I've cut out the main rectangular panel from the can by cutting off the top and bottom, is I take a piece of plywood with a straight edge, and by using the plywood as kind of a guide for the fold, I position the can like this and use the plywood to kind of start the fold like that. That way my fingers get a little bit of a rest. It also makes really nice straight lines. It's still not exactly therapeutic to the skin, but it saves my fingertips from scrapes much more than my previous attempts did. Another change to my original design is the shape of this door. I've decided that it's too small, not only for the dog to enter and exit, but also for me to put in bedding material and food and other doggy necessities. So I've traced out a line right here, and I'm going to cut it out with my jigsaw. I'll finish up this cut with my handsaw. Handsaw meaning to be used by the hands, not to cut hands. Not like a meat saw, which is to cut meat, not to be used by meat. And there is an enlarged doggy door. I'm sorry, that's the last pooch pun that I will trouble you with. So now I will just continue making my way up the side of the house here, and I'll check back in with you in a few minutes. I've finished installing just the basic shingles on both sides of the doghouse, and to finish up the roof I still need to place some shingles on this corner right here, kind of in an L shape, so they can protect this area right here underneath these shingles, and I also need to install a ridge cap on the top. But before I do any further work on the roof, I want to paint the walls. Since the shingles that are going to be installed on this corner will cover a portion of the wall, I think it will be easier to paint this right now. My chosen paint for this project is Valspar Ultra Paint Plus Primer Flat Exterior in this color. I found this at the clearance rack at Lowe's. $27.97 was the original price, but it's marked down to $5 because a previous customer asked the paint department to mix up this color, and then they just kind of bailed out on the whole transaction, and the paint department was stuck with this can of paint. So they can't really do anything with it except try to sell it cheaply, and that's where I took advantage. So let's open this up, and I'll mix it, and we'll see how it looks. I've mixed this paint up a little bit, and I'm really happy with it. It's a nice, warm, soothing tan. I think it will go very nicely on my doghouse. Oh yes, that's very nice. That's a really nice color. This is one of my favorite paintbrushes. This is an old Purdy brush, originally very expensive, and I rescued it from a professional painter who was going to throw it away. And despite the fact the bristles are frayed and most of them are gone, and the dumb neighbor's dog used it as a chew toy for a while, it's still a smooth, nice brush to work with. So I'll just paint this side of the house and the other side, and then we'll continue work on the roof. I've got 2 coats of paint on the doghouse, and now I'm going to resume installation of the shingles. Right now I'm going to work on this edge right here. To cover up this area, I'm going to use the same shingles that I was using for the main roof area, except that I'm going to fold them in half, hot dog style, and then place them like this. On all of the corners except for this one, I'll be starting at the very bottom and working my way up. Because of the door right here, on this edge I'm going to start about right here and work my way up to the ridge. I'll put the shingle right about here, and I'll nail it at the top on the roof side and on the wall side near the top. That way the shingle that comes after it will cover up the nails. I think I should also try to fold this up around here. This will keep the door open, and it will also help to secure the shingle to the house. I'm really pleased with the way the paint came out. Really pleased. So shingle number 1 is installed, and we'll just work our way up to the top. Side is finished. Now we'll move over to this side. I've placed shingles going up both edges of this wall, and next I'm going to put one more of these type of shingles right here to cover up this area. Now that that piece is installed, I will repeat this same procedure on this other side. I've finished wrapping these corners with shingles, and to finish everything off, I'm going to install a nice little ridge cap made from some folded shingles. As is the case with all of these shingles, I'm going to place the nail in a place where the next shingle will cover it. I'm about to install the last shingle on my doghouse. To attach this final piece of aluminum, I've cut down a couple of 6-penny galvanized nails that used to look like this, but now they're short, like this. I'm using galvanized nails here because they will be exposed, and I don't want them to rust and discolor my beautiful red and white Coca-Cola laden roof. And I think that will just about do it, ladies and gentlemen. Now I just need to figure out what to do with all these aluminum sand dollars. We're here in the backyard. This is the site where the doghouse will be placed. And as a foundation, I'm using a couple of pieces of redwood. I don't want to place the doghouse directly on the ground because the plywood floor would very quickly get rotten and just get ruined really quickly. Redwood is rot and wood destroying pest resistant, and this will also keep the floor of the doghouse up a little bit so that it won't be so cold for our precious little dog. And here we go. I don't think she likes it. Don't you want to get in your doghouse? Let's see if we can bait her into the doghouse with this baby meat. 4, not composed of. Penny, come on. What's this? What's this here? What's this? Look. Come on. Good dog. You can do it. This is a smart animal. I think that is success. Maybe not. And that's how to construct a very simple, inexpensive, and unique doghouse. Thanks for watching. Woof.